Hello everyone, thank you very much for your comments following my previous video clips. And let me respond to 3 questions you posted, very good questions. Thank you very much again. The first question is about China's very low yield of Chinese treasury bond, which is now lower than 1.8%. The central government treasury bond is now trading at a yield below 1.8%. What is implication for the stock market? Well, the very low, the extra low yield means that the central government policymakers will respond to this message, and they will very likely respond by issuing more debt, because the low yield below 1.8% means that there's tremendous room for the central government to increase its issuance of new central government debt. And using the central government debt, they will swap out local debt, and therefore allowing local governments to pay their long-delayed payments to their service providers and to their employees. This in turn will form a very important fiscal stimulus for the Chinese economy. Okay, so I think overall this is very good news. Okay, also the super low yield rate means that a lot of cash will not be able to earn high returns sitting in the bond market. So a lot of money will be ready to enter the stock market. So this is a prelude to, I believe, overall a bull market next year. Okay, the Chinese stock market will be positioned to go up next year overall. Okay. Now, second question is the Central Economic Conference in China stated that the Chinese government will find ways to supplement the income of middle and low income people, and therefore to stimulate Chinese domestic consumption. So the question posed by our friends is how to do it. Now, I think the most likely policies will be coming from certain local governments. Not all local governments. Some local governments have cash. Not all, okay, but a small number. Some local governments will respond to this statement of the central government by subsidizing their low-income people, because they have the information about who are the low-income people. Okay, so they will be able to identify low-income people, and they will use some of their fiscal revenue to do that. Now, let me emphasize again, not all local governments, because most local governments are running out of cash, but some will do it. So when they do this, they will set good examples for other local governments to do in coming years. Maybe not in this year, not in 2025, but in 2026, when the central government swaps out the local debt. Then the third question, very interesting question, let me respond. It's about the imminent nomination by President-elect Trump to nominate Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio, to be the new Secretary of State. Okay, and I stated in my previous video that this is a bad choice, because Marco Rubio is what I call a regime changer. Okay, he wants to change the political regime of China, so that the Chinese side will find it very difficult to work with him. Okay, now my friend, okay, thank you for your comment, says that Marco Rubio actually is the ideal choice for the US to deal with China, because Marco Rubio is an immigrant from Cuba, and Cuba runs the same regime of China, which is you call communist regime, and therefore Marco Rubio knows China very well, and Marco Rubio will be able to deal with China very effectively on behalf of the US. Okay, so your logic is perfect on paper. However, there's a big assumption, which is not the case, not the fact. That is Marco Rubio, because of his status of immigrant from Cuba, he knows China. No, this is a bad assumption. This is the opposite of the reality. In reality, the Chinese political system is very different from Cuba. The Chinese political system is farther away from Cuba than from a country like Singapore or a country like maybe Mexico, right? Okay, let me explain to you why. The name CCP, Chinese Communist Party, in which communism is a very misleading, very tricky word. Okay, so don't take it as you may understand from reading historical books. Okay, the Chinese Communist Party chose this name 100 years ago when the country was in trouble, when the country was being divided by the Western imperialists. So a lot of young people drew inspiration from Marxism, and communism was the buzzword for them to rely upon. But actually, the Communist Party of China, CCP, has been extremely adaptive, extremely pragmatic, fighting 22 years of brutal warfare before assuming national power. So what on the ground actually are the policies which are very different from the orthodox communism. Okay, while in Cuba they are still following the dogmatic principles of the Karl Marx. Okay, so simply because Marco Rubio comes from Cuba indicates that he is arguably one of the people who are least knowledgeable about today's China. Okay, so would argue that by choosing Marco Rubio, President Trump chooses a person who knows China the least among many people. Okay, so from the U.S. perspective, on behalf of the U.S. interest, President Trump should have chosen another person. I would say if he randomly picks a senator in the U.S. Senate, right? I think a random choice is better than Marco Rubio, okay? Because a random person wouldn't be biased by the Cuban communist experience, okay? So this is my point, okay? I agree with your premise that the U.S. choose somebody who knows China in order to deal with China for the best interest of the U.S. I agree with your principle. However, I disagree with your assumption that Marco Rubio coming from Cuba, therefore he knows about China. Wrong. This is totally wrong. I think it's hard to imagine anything more wrong than this. Okay? So these are my responses. Thank you very much. If you have further questions, please leave your questions and the comments in the area below my video. Thank you very much.